But let's get to Jim Rogers. He's our guest host for the next 2 hours, chairman of Rogers Holdings. He's over in Singapore with Christine. Jim, very good to see you. Thanks for coming to join us. So, would you be a buyer of BP right now?
No, Anna, not me. Not with my money. I'd rather wait to see how this thing resolves itself. Getting rid of the CEO is a symbolic measure and nothing else. It looks as though they're going to have to spend billions of dollars. In my experience, whenever there's a disaster at a company, there's usually plenty of time to watch and wait, and that's what I'm going to do, watch and wait.
Maithri Sitharaman has been staking out the headquarters of BP in London all morning, and she joins us again. Maithri, so you and Maria have been busy down there in front of the headquarters. What have you been learning?
Well, Maria Bartiromo had an interview with Karl-Henrik Swanberg, he's the chairman of BP, and he basically was talking about the fact that there can be no cap to the liabilities that BP faces. Though when it came to Robert Dudley, he did say that despite all the problems that Dudley had with when he was in Russia, they cleared it with the Kremlin. They actually spoke to the Kremlin and the White House, cleared it with both parties before that appointment went through. So when Maria asked him about Dudley's appointment, this is what he had to say. Take a listen.
Well, Bob Dudley is he's born in New York, in fact, but he's raised in Mississippi, and he's an oil man. He spent 20 years with Amoco in many different positions. He came to us in the 1999. He spent 3 years here. Then he led TNK-BP, which is a large integrated company in Russia, which he did very successfully under very tough circumstances. Then he's come back and worked with us here again since 2 years, and he is now led the response in the Gulf of Mexico lately and done that well.
Well, Swanberg also was talking about what went wrong with Tony Hayward and his appointment as CEO. Remember, he came in, he was there to clean up the act of BP. He came in to change the culture of the company, the strategy. And a number of analysts said he did precisely that. But again, a lot of it, analysts say, comes down to politics. Was he the right face? All the gaps that were made in terms of PR when the Gulf of Mexico oil spill happened, that really took its toll. So Maria did ask him about Tony Hayward and what went wrong.
Well, Tony Hayward has done a great job for the company through his almost 30 years, and he's done it very well, greatly as a CEO. He's driven the company's performance and developed the company in many ways. He's also led an unprecedented response in the Gulf of Mexico. But it became obvious to him and to us that in order to rebuild our position, in order to rebuild our brand and reputation, we needed fresh leadership, and that is why we're doing the change.
I did want to come back to the point that only $32.2 billion were provisioned for the Gulf of Mexico. This, of course, includes that $2.9 that's already been spent, the $20 billion escrow account. What some analysts have been saying is the fact that this is a company that obviously cannot say that it was grossly negligent, and that would have taken that number much higher. Again, remember, those fines that can be imposed on BP over the next couple of years can range anywhere between $1,100 to $4,600 per barrel of oil leaked into the Gulf of Mexico. That's going to stay as a liability for this company. They've said it in their notes. Swanberg said it in his interview that this is a problem that's going to be there for the company. And it's interesting to hear statements such as the fact that the Gulf of Mexico oil spill has had quite an impact on the brand of BP, and that the company's actually said in those accounts that they set out today, the results that they set out today, that it's going to impact their long-term growth prospects as well. So again, this is a story that's not really going to go away anywhere, and we'll have to wait and see if this new CEO can even try to turn things around.
Maithri, thank you very much for that. And one further note on BP's attempts to plug the oil leak. The next stage is termed static kill. It looks likely to start as early as Monday. This part of the operation will pump mud from the top of the Macondo well and will be followed by bottom kill, when mud and cement will be injected from the bottom using the relief well, which of course has yet to meet that Macondo well. Joining us now, well, still with us in fact, Jim Rogers over in Singapore. Jim, so we were hearing from Maithri then some of the comments that have been made to us by the chairman of BP, Karl-Henrik Swanberg, today. One of the things he's also told us is that it is impossible to quantify the cost of the spill. So still months later, it is impossible to say. And I imagine this is going to be an uncertainty that will hang over the business for years to come.
Well, that's why I said I'm not rushing in to buy BP. I'm not short BP. I'm not doing anything. I'm watching because I know from previous experience that these things take a long time, and there's usually plenty of time to do something later on. I will say, Anna, that this is going to put more pressure on the price of oil because this means less drilling, more expensive drilling. Less drilling, more expensive drilling means less oil. Less oil means higher prices down the road.
Jim, if you were BP, what would you do to make things right?
Well, do exactly what they're doing. They're blocking up the hole. They're having a sacrificial lamb.
Leadership.
Well, they have to. I mean, I don't think it's going to do them any good. You know, Tony Hayward happened to be at the wrong place at the wrong time. They needed a sacrificial lamb. They have sent a sacrificial lamb to Siberia. I think you'll have more fun in Siberia than in Mississippi and Alabama right now because he's so disliked down there. No, I think they've done what they have to do. It's a shame. It's a shame, but that's what they have to do, given the state of the world in 2010.
Hey, Jim, it's Nicole in the United States. Thanks so much for being with us. Of course, we've been kicking this can down the road in terms of a possible takeover. Do you think that's likely?
A takeover of BP? No, I think it's very unlikely, just given that the liabilities, potential liabilities, are so unknown and so huge. Perhaps somebody like, to pick up a name, well, one of the major oil-producing nations, but I can't imagine they would do it because there would then be opposition in the U.S. and the U.K. So I cannot imagine that if Libya, say, to pick a name, or Venezuela said we're going to take over BP, can you imagine the howls in Washington if something like that happened?
There has already been rumblings in Washington. Speaking of Washington, do you think Washington is responsible for the hullabaloo that has amounted from the BP fiasco?
Of course, Nicole. I mean, a lot of this is politicians just trying to get themselves on TV or in the press to make a name for themselves. They have not helped this at all. And as you know, or probably know, many of the problems are because of the government has improper regulations or didn't supervise things in the first place. Whenever something goes wrong, unfortunately in America, we blame other people. Especially politicians always find somebody to blame. Instead of acknowledging that their own responsibilities to some extent, they blame other people. But that's why we have to have a sacrificial lamb, and that's why Hayward is gone.
Although Carl-Henrik Svanberg said that wasn't at all how he would describe Tony Hayward. But Jim, thank you very much for your views. Jim Rogers, chairman of Rogers Holdings, joining us for the rest of Worldwide Exchange.